Stone Cold, the Hellraiser is back!
Here we go! Evolution of the Shield!
John Cena versus the Showstopper!
Hulk Hogan and The Rock in the same ring!
You will never take my place at the head of the table!
Undertaker! On the Hell's Gate submission! Oh my God! What?
My God, Michaels! Just kick Cena's head off!
The Monday Night Wars have come to WrestleMania!
It'll be The Rock! It'll be Austin one-on-one!
Third and final, The Undertaker!
Do you believe in miracles?
The streak is over!
Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to WWE Retro on the WWE podcast on this Friday, December 16th. Coming at you a bit late today. I was traveling all day, and there was a massive snowstorm up here in Canada. So it really was a heck of a day, to say the least. But finally getting to do it from my hotel room down in Cambridge, Ontario, which, if you guys don't know, is a bit south of Toronto. And just finished watching up SmackDown as I came through the door. And I gotta tell you, if you haven't watched SmackDown yet, pretty eventful show. A decently big size return, although not really a return, but I won't spoil it too much. Arguably the biggest botch in the history of professional wrestling, and a pretty cool advancement in the Bray Wyatt LA Knight storyline. But obviously we're not here to talk about Retro. We're not here to talk about SmackDown. We are here to talk about Retro. And as I mentioned this past week on the current state of WWE, we are here to talk about The Rock's return in 2001 when he joined Team WWF. And this was a point in The Rock's career where he fully was starting to dip his toe into Hollywood. And it was the first time that we really started to see The Rock go away for an extended period of time. And that period of time came following WrestleMania 17 at the Houston Astrodome, following the infamous heel turn of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And the next night on Monday Night Raw, Vince McMahon comes out to discuss the reason as to why he helped Stone Cold, and the unholy alliance, for lack of better terms, was formed. The Rock comes out, demands a rematch, and ultimately gets that in the way of a steel cage match against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Triple H would ultimately get involved, and when we thought he was coming out to maybe even the odds with Austin and McMahon on one side, he ultimately doubles down on being a heel and attacks The Rock, and ultimately leads to the two-man power trip. They beat down The Rock, and he is, on TV at least, suspended indefinitely by Vince McMahon. In real life, it was because he stepped away to go film The Scorpion King, which was his first role in a leading capacity in movies. And if you've ever seen The Scorpion King, it was a spin-off off of The Mummy Returns, which was The Rock's first acting role in Hollywood. And I mean, The Scorpion King is what it was. Michael Clark Duncan was a decent part in that, had a decent role in that movie, which obviously gave it some much-needed star power, as The Rock was not a leading man in Hollywood at that point in time. Certainly not near the superstar that we've come to know in 2022. But it was a major step for The Rock, and an eventual stepping stone into what he's become today, arguably the biggest superstar on the planet. And that's not being at all exaggeratory or exaggerating whatsoever. He really has become just a complete megastar. But obviously, we missed him in the professional wrestling world, because nobody knew in 2001 that, fast forward 2 years later, The Rock would be completely gone from WWE in a full-time role and be completely knee-deep in Hollywood. And in 2001, as I covered 2 weeks ago here on Retro, we started seeing the WWE invasion angle, in which we had WCW and ECW start to come into on-screen programming, ultimately leading to the Invasion pay-per-view in July of 2001, which we talked about right here 2 weeks ago. Stone Cold Steve Austin doubles down on his heel turn, and just like that, we have the WWF without a leader. Austin is off with the Alliance. Triple H is on the shelf with injury, which left Vince McMahon with a very, very difficult decision, but one he knew he ultimately had to make.
Because tonight, I'm going to drop a little bomb of my own. You see, tonight, I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. Tonight, I'm going to lift the suspension of a certain WWF superstar. Tonight, I'm going to reinstate a certain WWF superstar. Tonight, I'm going to reinstate The Rock.
Yeah! All right! Listen to the motivation for The Rock!
I know that just because I want to reinstate The Rock, I know that doesn't necessarily mean The Rock will come back to the WWF and come back to action. Because if The Rock chooses to come back to action, he does so not because of Vince McMahon, but in spite of him. But knowing that, Rock, I've got a challenge for you, Rock. You've never backed down from a challenge before, so here goes. You know, Rock, should you decide to come back to the WWF, I gotta wonder, Rock, can you still bring it? I've gotta wonder, Rock, whether or not you can still lay up the smackdown. And Rock, can you still raise the people's eyebrow, Rock? And drop the people's elbow? Can you do that, Rock? Rock, let me ask you. Rock, do you still consider yourself the people's champion? Rock, are you still worthy of being called the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today? If you are, Rock, then listen to me. Listen to me, damn it, Rock. I know you're watching us tonight. Now, wait a minute. Don't listen to me. Listen, Rock. In Buffalo, New York, Rock, they're chanting your name. They're chanting your name, Rock.
So Vince McMahon with a very inspired and enthusiastic pitch for The Rock to come back and join Team WWF, and obviously WWF without Stone Cold Steve Austin, a WWF without Triple H, a WWF in dire need of a major superstar, a leader against the Alliance. And The Rock in 2000 really kind of exploded and maybe did not end up quite on par with Stone Cold Steve Austin, but in Austin's absence due to a neck injury for almost the entirety of the year 2000, The Rock had a meteoric rise where I thought he became a superstar all on his own. And look, I think that Steve Austin is in a stratosphere all by himself because of how popular he was at his complete climax at, let's say, 98, 99. But The Rock was damn near close, and I think he is absolutely number two in terms of popularity at any given time. Maybe Hulk Hogan way back in the 1980s, but I think that The Rock was right up there, certainly in the more modern-ish era. So you heard the crowd really ready to cheer The Rock, especially given the fact that he was screwed out of the WWF Championship not once, but twice in as many nights just as early as 4 months ago. And obviously the crowd and the fans super pissed off that Stone Cold Steve Austin had just doubled down on his heel turn and aligned with the Alliance, and they wanted The Rock to come back. And obviously, because of how popular The Rock was, it came with an incredible promo package to get people quite just as hyped up as they should be, given the magnitude of the superstar who was returning the following week on Monday Night Raw.
Should you decide to come back to the WWF, I wonder, Rock, can you still bring it? I've got to wonder, Rock, whether or not you can still lay up the smackdown. Rock bottom, rock bottom, rock bottom. Shane McMahon, rock bottom through the table. Rock bottom to Austin. And Rock, can you still raise the people's eyebrow and drop the people's elbow? Can you do that, Rock? It could be time for the most electrifying move in sports entertainment. The Rock's throwing people's elbow. The people's elbow. And this will be the people's elbow. Rock, do you still consider yourself the people's champion? Ludicrous, overwhelming ovation for the people's champion. Rock, are you still worthy of being called the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today?
The Rock has got a little story. He don't hear this shit either. Right there running with Stone Cold on it. Do you like pie?
Yeah, I do.
Just like The Rock thought. So whether it's you, Chris Jericho's daddy, Chris Jericho's mama, Uncle Joe Jericho with the glass eye, or maybe it's Grandpa Jimmy Jack Jericho, were you just picking your nose? The Rock says, take your finger and put it in your nose. Stick it in, homie!
Listen, Rock. Rock! You're cheating, you're not!
So a good little inspirational promo for people to get hyped for the Monday Night Raw the following week. And again, it just goes to show you how high of a ladder The Rock had climbed before his quote-unquote suspension, i.e. leave of absence to go film The Scorpion King in WWF. And I wonder, because look, at this time I was, 6, 7 years old, and I asked you guys, for those who are watching at this point in time, were people more on board with cheering The Rock? Was The Rock more over than Stone Cold Steve Austin at this time in terms of a babyface? Had they seen too much of Stone Cold Steve Austin as a babyface leading into this? Because he had won the title at WrestleMania 14. Because he had won the title at WrestleMania 15. Because he had won the championship at WrestleMania 17. Were the fans ready for a new face of the company? Now, I think that's a very, subjective opinion or a subjective answer, because both of these guys are megastars, arguably the two greatest of all time. But at this particular point in time, in the middle of 2001, because of what had gone on with Stone Cold Steve Austin, because of the double heel turn, because The Rock had been screwed over 2 nights back to back, it was a valid question over, was it the right idea to push The Rock as the biggest babyface in the company and Stone Cold Steve Austin as the biggest heel in the company? Because traditionally, it had been Rock heel, Austin babyface. And we would see that when they rekindled their rivalry 18 months after this, leading into WrestleMania 19. But this was one of the few times where, although The Rock wasn't coming back to directly feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin, when they would eventually cross paths, which would happen numerous times over the preceding couple of months, The Rock would be playing the role as the babyface, as the leader of Team WWF, and also would be playing the role as the heel, as the leader of the Alliance. And like I spoke about 2 weeks ago, it would have been so cool to see these two fight side by side, leading Team WWF, preferably with Triple H in tow and probably The Undertaker, against the NWO and Goldberg and Sting and Diamond Dallas Page or whatever. But obviously, that wasn't to be, and Vince McMahon and creative had to work with what they had at their disposal. And speaking of Vince McMahon, the man who was lifting the suspension of The Rock, and the man who was giving all these fighting words and these inspirational quotes and this big heroic speech to get The Rock back on the horse to fight in the name of the WWF, he was the guy who screwed over The Rock at WrestleMania, and at the night after WrestleMania, and at WrestleMania 16 2000 at the Arrowhead Pond in Anaheim in the Fatal 4-Way match for the WWF Championship. And when it was time for Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon to give their pitches for The Rock to join their respective alliances or WWF, Shane McMahon did not mince words when trying to paint his father in a very vain picture to The Rock.
Because remember, Rock, the last time you were here in the World Wrestling Federation, you were screwed by that man right there. Rock, let me take you back. Yeah, what a tense moment. Let me take you back to Raw, the day after WrestleMania, Fort Worth, Texas. Rock, do you remember what happened there? I know you do. You were in a steel cage match, and you were screwed by that man right there. That man. Rocky, let me take you back to the night before. WrestleMania itself, WrestleMania. Houston Astrodome, almost 70,000 people going wild, millions all over the world. And Rock, they all watched that man right there screw you. And talking about WrestleMania, Rock, let me go back to one farther. Let me go back to the year prior WrestleMania. What happened there, Rock? Is it all coming back to you? That's right. You were screwed once again by that man right there. And Rock, if you do decide for some reason you come back to the World Wrestling Federation, that's what's in store for you night after night after night. Rock, you will be screwed over and over and over again by that man right there. Wait a second. Quite frankly, Rock.
So, Shane makes pretty good points in favor of joining the Alliance, because it is true. You go back to the two previous WrestleManias, and The Rock was screwed out of the WWF Championship directly because of Vince McMahon. And look, WrestleMania 17, Vince McMahon aligns with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the infamous heel turn of Steve Austin. But then you go back to WrestleMania 16, the Fatal 4-Way match, with a McMahon in each corner and Vince in Rock's corner. He comes out and belts The Rock over the head with a steel chair to help secure the victory for one Triple H. And then obviously what happened in the steel cage match the night following WrestleMania 17. So Shane McMahon making a very compelling case to not trust Vince McMahon. And obviously, Vince McMahon, historically, not a very trustworthy person. But Vince, obviously a man who knows how to play with words, a master manipulator, had a rebuttal of his own.
facts are somewhat distorted, yet at the same time, somewhat accurate. I've made a lot of really good business decisions in the past, and I've made some that were bad decisions. I can state unequivocally it was a very bad decision for me to back Stone Cold Steve Austin at your expense. I admit it. A very bad decision. I should have known better. After all, Austin is a rattlesnake. It was a matter of time before he turned and bit me. Because that's what snakes do. But I'm not standing here tonight offering you an apology, Rock, for the past. Because that would be empty-handed to a man like you. I won't do that. At the same time, Rock, as I stand here before you, hoping that you come back to the World Wrestling Federation. But if you do, I never have any intention, Rock, of ever screwing you again. At the same time, I'm looking in your eye, Rock. I can't say it would never happen again. If it was the right thing to do for business, I might do it. But at least, Rock, at least you're getting a truthful response. And if nothing else, Rock, it's at least the devil that you know as compared to the devils you don't. Wow. Good point. Now, Rock, if you come back to the World Wrestling Federation, I know I'm going to attempt to garner, to earn your respect and your trust each and every day. And you may never trust me again. And I'm all right with that, Rock. But at least, Rock, trust yourself. And Rock, trust each and every one of these people. Your future, Rock, is with these people and the World Wrestling Federation.
Damn right it is. Excuse me. The future is with these people, all right, but not with the World Wrestling Federation. No, Rock. Hear me out. Stephanie has said that the WWF is dying. It's dying, Rock. The Alliance is where the cool factor is. The Alliance is a progressive company, and Rock, obviously, you are a progressive man. Rock, you're a superstar that transcends it all. The biggest icon in the business. The biggest free agent in sports entertainment history. So, Rock, I extend my hand. And your future is here. Make your decision here. Your future is with the Alliance.
I feel it, JR.
So, before we get to the conclusion of this, Vince McMahon, obviously an amazing talker, sells The Rock on, siding with the devil as opposed to the devils you don't, and I will always do what's best for business. And it's funny that he said, I will never have an intention to screw you ever again, and unless I'm missing something, he would never do so. And the only time Vince McMahon would ever get involved in The Rock's business would be at the expense of Hulk Hogan, where they collectively screwed Hogan at No Way Out 2003 in a Montreal Screwjob 2.0 type of scenario. Or at the Royal Rumble 2013, when Vince McMahon came out to restart the match against him and CM Punk when the Shield got involved with the lights turned out. So, lo and behold, Vince McMahon, unless, of course, I completely missed something, was true to his word and would never screw The Rock over again. Let me tell you, that's long-term storytelling, guys. But, of course, they probably didn't plan it that far out in ahead, but it did work out fairly well. Again, assuming that I am correct there, but I'm pretty sure I am. But then, obviously, Shane comes back, makes his final pitch to The Rock, before we would eventually get our final answer on where The Rock's loyalties would lie.
Decision, okay? Listen to the voice of reason. Listen to the voice of experience. Give the people what they want. Away! The Rock just rocked Father Vince McMahon. The Rock can join the Alliance. Oh my God! Live this moment, JR. Live this moment for the rest of your life. I cannot believe this. This is the worst thing that could happen to the WWE.
So, lo and behold, The Rock elects to stay with the WWF, and something that was fairly obvious, right? Like, you were not going to have The Rock choose the WCW and have both Rock and Austin on the side of the Alliance, but obviously it made for some good TV and made for some good drama, and we would have The Rock, as per usual, take down not just one, but two McMahons, which is always good television. Like, I will always pay to see the McMahons get stunnered or rock bottom or people's elbow. Anytime Rock, Austin, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker get their hands on the McMahons, it is always good TV. And another thing about this is that this was The Rock's first big return ever in WWF, WWE history, because it was the first time he would step away. But because of how fast his movie career progressed, and as we know what he is today, I think over the last 20 years or so, no superstar in professional wrestling has had as many collectively big returns as The Rock. Because The Rock would go away and come back, and go away and come back, and leave for 2 years and come back, and leave for 7 years and come back, and now we're expecting him to come back after a 3+ year hiatus. The Rock has kind of been synonymous with big returns. That's just kind of been his thing because of the nature of his other careers, because of everything he has done outside of professional wrestling. But every 2, 4, 5, 10 years, he resurfaces for a massive return. And we've seen it time and time again over the last 2 decades. I feel like we're going to be seeing it sometime within the next 2 months or so. And it's always going to be epic. You're always going to get a pop. And it's always going to be electric because that's just what The Rock brings. And it's just really cool to go back and look at the first, think about how crazy that is given all the massive returns he's had over the last 21 years. The first massive return The Rock had in WWF was right here during the Invasion angle in the middle of 2001. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of WWE Retro. As always, you can get me on Twitter at ADemarco25. You can get Matt on Twitter at wrestling_audio, or you can email him each and every week for the WWE podcast mailbag. Anyway, guys, enjoy your weekend. Happy holidays. I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.